Because when this happens, it will be hidden in the mainstream media, in the legacy media, as they like to be called now. This will be hidden from us, so we must stay alert as to what's going on geopolitically. Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Now ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to leave the link to this article because this is a paid subscription, so unless you're subscribed to premium, you're not going to be able to read it. However, I'll go ahead and make sure that you can see the entire article from the top to the bottom, even the parts that I don't cover here during this video. That way, if you want to take a quick look at it, you can. But listen, I know I just put up a video earlier today, which I think is very important that people understand what is going on and why it is that you need to prepare as much as you can, especially food, ladies and gentlemen. Food is going to be the catalyst, right? Food is going to be the thing that people will be talking about in the years to come. Right? Read any book on hunger. Read any book on starvation. Look at any documentaries from like these really poor countries in Africa where people are just trying to survive, digging ditches in the back of their yards to try to accrue 1/10 of a gram of gold in a day so that they can buy a tin of wheat. These things are actually happening today. But ladies and gentlemen, when this happens, and it will, and I'm going to go over it with you here in a minute. When this happens and you hear about it, in my opinion, and this is what I'm going to do, I am going to head right to the store like that and start stocking up on all of the things, not just food, but everything that I think I'm going to need for the next several years, and not just one or two, but as much as I can personally afford to get. The reason being is that we can do nothing about this. There's absolutely nothing that the United States or the West can do with what's coming with China and Russia, the BRICS nations, and OPEC. It's a multiverse of things that's going to occur, but it will occur. Why? Because the world is tired of the Federal Reserve note and the way in which it's been used to weaponize against countries that don't want to follow our lead. Let me go ahead and read on for you here. I have a few things highlighted. I'm not going to go through this entire article, but I'm going to point out to you the things that you need to understand, that when this happens, it is your cue to get as prepped as you possibly can. Start preparing now if you're not prepared. That way it'll be easier for you to fill in the gaps when you finally realize that the day has come where the dollar, the petrodollar as they like to call it, is dead. I don't think people realize what a big deal this is. When that happens, when the petrodollar finally vanishes, when the U.S. Federal Reserve note is no longer the world reserve currency because other countries have gone away from it, it is going to create inflation and a resource problem here within the United States and also the Western nations that use the dollar, you know, as a peg or actually use it as their currency. There's probably about 6 or so different nations that actually use the dollar as their currency. When this happens, man, things are just going to explode in price, and there's nothing that the Federal Reserve can do about it. There's nothing that the government can do about it except to become more tyrannical. Why do you think it is that they're trying to implement all of these systems now? Because they know this is going to happen. Eventually, the dollar will be no more. And if they have a CBDC, if they have a social credit score, if they have all of their little carbon credits so that they can control what you can buy, when you can buy it, how much you have to pay for it, how long you can keep that money in that wallet. If they can control all of that, when this finally happens, they will have full control over the people, and it will not impact the government as far as the people revolting against it as much as it would if it happened right now. Zoltan's year-end masterpiece, dusk for the petrodollar and dawn for the petro yuan, and the coming commodity rehypothecation. And what that means is that commodities, when the petro yuan finally takes place and it exists and it starts being used by the BRICS nations, commodities are going to skyrocket. And the actions that China and Russia are taking and have been taking for years pretty much prove that this is the road that they are headed into. Earlier this month, former New York Fed repo guru Zoltan Pozsar wrote, Putin could unleash hell on the Western financial system by demanding that instead of dollars, Russian oil exporters are paid in gold, effectively pegging oil to gold and launching the petrogold. All right, that's one move. Such a move would lead to an immediate overnight banking crisis due to the systemic gold short held by most Western banks. What does that mean? It means that if they are going to be accepting gold for oil instead of currency, right? That since banks in the Western nations hold so much gold and paper that really doesn't exist, that the price of gold is going to skyrocket because they won't be able to use that paper gold to buy commodities. They'll have to use real gold, ladies and gentlemen. Now, this is not good news for gold holders. You know, the day that gold goes up to $50,000 an ounce, it's really not going to be a good day for humanity. It will mean because there will be a severe crisis, severe shortages, and severe inflation, i.e. hyperinflation. And most people, unfortunately, don't own gold. Most people don't own silver. But those that do will be insulated against the commodity prices rising at a hyperinflationary rate and will still be able to eat. Now, this is my opinion, of course. Yet, one thing which Polzar ignored in his latest piece, perhaps on purpose, was China, which, as we know now, has been secretly buying up hundreds of tons of physical gold, and specifically how it would fit into this new global monetary arrangement, an arrangement which was explained previously it was actively preparing for. This is something that China and Russia, and I believe that a lot of the BRICS nations, have been preparing for. Central banks around the world, really with the exception of the Western central banks, have been stockpiling gold at a feverish rate for the last several years. This last year, they've stockpiled more gold than they have in like 55 or 60 years. While the world is short on commodities, China has been stockpiling commodities since 2019. So while the rest of the world is short on these things, listen to what China's been stocking up and listen to how much of it they have. They currently hold 80% of the global copper inventories, 70% of corn, 51% of wheat, 46% of soybeans, 70% of crude oil, and over 20% of global aluminum inventories. And now China is aggressively stockpiling what, ladies and gentlemen? They're stockpiling every ounce of physical gold that they can get their hands on. Does this not paint a picture for you? It's why I started off this video telling you that once you hear that the petro yuan is active, or that the oil that Russia is selling, they're selling in gold, for physical gold, go get everything that you're going to need for a long time, because commodities are going to skyrocket. They really are. These are some very interesting times that we're living in, ladies and gentlemen. Very exciting to see what happens in the future. But you know what? None of this is 100% certain. I mean, a meteor can hit us right now, for all we know. But what are the probabilities? Ask yourself, what are the probabilities that China and Russia, along with the OPEC nations plus, along with the BRICS nations, are going to go along with what you just heard me read? I would say that the probabilities are pretty good. Here they say that in a moment when the world is going from unipolar to multipolar, the actions of heads of states are far more important than the actions of central banks. And why is that? Because the actions of heads of state have to do with real stuff. Especially the actions that the Eastern nations are taking, where the actions of central banks is nothing but fake. All of that money that they say exists is all fake. It's all debt. It's all a paper note. A note is a debt, ladies and gentlemen. That is because the heads of states lead, and their actions affect inflation. Central banks merely follow by hiking rates to clean it up. Again, central banks are not proactive, they are reactive. And where it says here that heads of state leads and their actions affect inflation, think about what's been happening with the price of commodities, the price of fuel. Is it because there's a real shortage? If there is a real shortage, why is there a shortage? It's because of the actions that heads of states have been taking, including the head of state of this here, the United States of America. If investors read only the speeches of central bankers but not statesmen, they will be even more behind the curve. More importantly, however, this new multipolar world is being built not by G7 heads of states, meaning the West, but by the BRICS heads of states, ladies and gentlemen. And to finish it off, ladies and gentlemen, we all know that the president of China, President Xi, he visited the OPEC Plus nations and also what they're calling here the GCC nations, which are like also OPEC Plus nations that produce oil and trade with China's. So he met with their leaders, and that marked the birth of the petro yuan. Why is that? Because now he is purchasing oil from these countries using the yuan, bypassing the US dollar. And it says here, and a leap in China's growing encumbrance of OPEC Plus's oil and gas reserves. That's because with the China GCC summit, China can now claim to have built a special relationship not only with the plus sign of OPEC, which is Russia, but with Iran and all of OPEC Plus. And what I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and get to what the message is. One day you will hear this, and you will have to stay alert as to what's going on geopolitically, because when this happens, it will be hidden in the mainstream media, in the legacy media, as they like to be called now. This will be hidden from us, so we must stay alert as to what's going on geopolitically, especially when it comes to finances and the monetary system. Because there will be a world where there are two monetary systems, that of the East and that of the West. However, the Western monetary system, as it is known now and as it is now, is backed by pretty much nothing except for your labor. Whereas the monetary system of the East, the way that they are building it, is that it's going to be backed up by real things. This is why China has been stocking up for all of these years, ladies and gentlemen. I tell you all the time, governments are the biggest preppers in the world, and you should follow their lead. Why? Because they're preparing for something, and it's not to take care of you. I guarantee you that. Having said that, have a great day. God bless every one of you. Remember to be good to each other. When good people do good things happen. Remember to reach one, teach one, and repeat. When we all do this, the world would be a better place, and you know that it will be a better place. Many blessings to every one of you and your families. And remember, tomorrow we will have a live stream at 2 p.m. Alaska time, 6 p.m. Eastern time. So hope to see you there. God bless every one of you.